I'm going to be sharing with you in this video what spiritual awakening actually is. And this is going to be completely almost opposite to like what most people will tell you. Most people will tell you all these different things like what awakening is and like how it works and like what the process of awakening will entail. And I'm going to break it down in a very simple way for you here in this video. That's just like so straight to the point and so simple that the ego just can't actually handle it. Like the ego is gonna take this information that I'm sharing and it's gonna make it into some like, it's gonna be like, oh my God, that's just too simple. It's simple. I need more complicated answers. I need something more complicated. I need something more, something more. So no, actually it's really that simple. I'm gonna be sharing with you in this video exactly what that is, so that you can remove any concept of awakening that's stopping you from really feeling how you want to feel in your life and allow you to really become that person that you really want to be. Because personally for me, what I realized is that I used to have so many ideas about what awakening is and spiritual awakening that actually it was like taking me away from what I believe awakening and spiritual awakening is actually meant to, in a way, point us to, and the results that it's supposed to give you in your life and how it's supposed to make you feel. I got so lost in the concepts of awakening that I personally feel like I disconnected from what it was really pointing to. And I'm going to be sharing with you in this video what I mean by that, perhaps how it relates to you in some area of your life, and how you can take this information and actually make it so that you can perhaps not make the same mistakes that I did. So if you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is I want you to hit that subscribe button. I want you to hit that notification bell. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, all the details for that will be down below. And the first thing that I want to share with you in this video is to understand that, in my personal opinion and my personal experience, what spiritual awakening actually is, what it truly actually is, in my experience, is dropping all concepts of awakening and seeking something, looking for the answers, trying to find the right answers, and I need to figure out awakening. How do I become enlightened, right? Who do I need to learn from? Really, you should be learning from everybody. That's a whole nother video. Every moment's an opportunity to learn, but that's a whole nother video. You know, it's to drop this entire sham, yes, I said sham, of looking for the answers and trying to find the right thing. Like, how do I find this? And what's the right path? What's our path? Is there a wrong path? Is there a right path? Dropping this entire loop and sham of seeking something and finding something, and actually just simply being this might sound cliche, about being the best, the most kind, and the most compassionate human being that you can be. And that just means being present in your life. Are you present with whoever's close to you in your life? Do you have the connections in your life that you want? Are you surrounding yourself in each moment with the people that you love? Are you doing what you love every single day? You have 24 hours in a day, right? And there's a schedule that you can create for yourself. You can create your own schedule, or you can be on somebody else's schedule. Now, even if you're on somebody else's schedule, do you want to be a part of that? Are you doing what you love? Right? If you want to awaken in the fastest way possible and like ascend to the 5D or whatever, right? Not saying that, you know, higher states of consciousness don't exist. Of course they exist. And I'm not here to like discredit or dismiss that these states of consciousness exist. Of course they do. But what I'm trying to share here is that actually, when I personally dropped all these concepts of awakening and seeking, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to be the best person I can be. I'm going to show up for the people that I love in my life in the best way possible. I'm going to show up for myself in the best way possible. I'm going to create what I want every single day. I'm going to take each moment and I'm going to work to the best of my abilities to be the best person that I can be, to be the most present, to be the most compassionate, and just see where that goes. And I'll tell you, when I did this, my connection to my spirituality, you could say, I felt much more connected to my spirituality than I ever did when I was on this journey to enlightenment and seeking. I'll be very honest with you. When I was on this journey to enlightenment and seeking, there was more lows and more resistance in my entire life than I felt when I decided to drop all of that and just be who I wanted to be moment to moment. And I think that the spiritual ego can get in the way and start to come up with all these different things in terms of like what awakening is, and what about this, what about that. So, actually, sometimes the best thing you can do is just be the best person you can be. That's what I believe. Do you resonate with that? Leave a comment down below. You can disagree. I would love to know. Do you resonate, disagree? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to know. Personally, I think that's what spiritual awakening is. I think it's getting back to developing yourself, evolving yourself. See, evolving, I believe that evolving does happen naturally. Yes, evolving is natural, but also evolution is not as natural as people think. What is natural and what is unnatural? Natural and unnatural becomes sort of like it becomes hard to define natural and unnatural, because like when you live with conscious intent and conscious, every moment you take as an opportunity to see, how can I learn more today? How can I develop more today? From one perspective, that is not going to happen naturally. That's going to happen only with conscious intent and deliberate focus. If you let yourself kind of be like lazy and not focused, in that sense, evolution is not going to happen naturally. To become more intelligent, to become more wise, it takes conscious intention and deliberate focus. And you need to value learning. I'm going to be talking about this in my book that's coming out really, really soon. That, to value learning, I think is so important. If you really want to skyrocket your spiritual awakening, if you want to call it that, and your connection to who you really are, one thing that I found is to value learning, is to value being connected to your spirit. And what does that mean? To being valued, to value being to learning. Excuse my speaking skills there for a second. What I'm saying is to value learning. In my experience, the day that I stop value learning is the day that my spiritual connection goes downhill. I always need to be in a state of learning and growing and developing. That's just for me personally. And I don't know how, I really don't know how it is for other people. I don't know. And everybody is in a different space in life. But for me, when I stop learning, when I start moving forward, I just get into this like state of like intense laziness and like boredom, and there's zero excitement. I just get into this sort of like derp state. I call it the derp state. I just derp. Just derp. Well, I'm just gonna sit here. I'm like be like lazy and like slow. I don't know how it is for other people, but I personally just can't tolerate that. I can't tolerate that. Like the more that I advance in my life, you could say, or the more mature I become, I have less tolerance for being in that sort of like hazy, unconscious resistance. I just can't tolerate it because I just get so like bored. I get so, and it's not that like I can't let go and slow down if I need that. It's not that I'm resisting that. It's just that like I need to be moving forward, and I because I see the importance of learning and developing my mind and always being in a state of flow. Because if I'm not doing that, well then what am I doing? I'm just like, here's how I see it. Either I'm growing and I'm developing and I'm becoming better, or I'm stagnating and I'm becoming worse. And really, to not have a desire to grow and to learn and to change is actually an attachment to things being the same. And when you attach things being the same, the problem that I've come to realize, it's almost like, I don't know if this is how it is, but it's almost like the universe just doesn't want that. The universe like doesn't want things to just be the same. If you try to attach being the same, it won't just be the same. What will happen is that you'll start to go downhill. You'll start to slow down. So either I'm expanding and I'm growing and I'm developing, or I'm attempting to say the same, but really what happens is that I just start to digress and regress in my development, and I start to slow down. So what I'm trying to share here is that that's what I believe the first step to awakening is. Then the second thing that I want to share with you, I believe what true spiritual awakening is, to another degree, is turning pain into desire. We all have a shadow. We all have a past. We all have something that maybe we're not proud of, maybe that we want to resist within us, maybe something that we want to hate within us, something that we dislike within us, something that we've done in our past, maybe some patterns of resistance and things we don't like. We all have this part of us, okay? What I believe awakening is, to a very large degree, not completely, but to a large degree, what it actually is taking that shadow and reintegrating it into a greater version of who we are. That's what I believe. Is taking literal pain, literal suffering, literal bad decisions that negatively affected your life probably in ways that you can't even begin to explain, and nobody will ever understand those shadows except for you. Nobody will ever get them, and it's not meant for anybody else. Those shadows are meant for you and for you only. And I believe that spiritual awakening is taking that pain. I believe it's about like taking that resistance, taking that past, taking all that negativity and turning it into gold. Taking literal dirt, the dirt of your past, not seeing it as dirt anymore and turning it into gold. And that's what love is. I think love is taking something that you used to be, that you saw as dirt, and you can still see that it's dirt from a perspective of like you don't want that, it's not your preference. But then you say, you know what, I'm going to not just accept this dirty part of myself, this negative part of myself. You could say, if you want to use those words, not necessarily my preference to use those words, but you could use those words if you want. And to turn it into gold, to turn it into something beautiful. And no matter what, we're going to have shadows because bad decisions are going to happen. You know, we're not perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. I don't care how shiny somebody looks on the forefront. They all have a pattern, you know. Even Eckhart Tolle, it's like, oh, but what about a spiritual teacher like Eckhart Tolle? Did you read his book? He was on the brink of suicide and suffering. And he nearly killed himself because he was in the most intense pain and misery of his life. And people just see him, and people forget that. He doesn't hide that. He explicitly shares that in his books, that he was on the brink of suicide and he almost killed himself. But instead what happened was he decided to switch over to the side of, you know what, I can keep hurting myself, I can keep being in pain, I can keep being in resistance, I can keep fighting with myself, or I can choose to reintegrate back into who I want to be and to become a better version of myself. And he did that, and he's helping others, and he's helping millions, and he's inspiring millions. That didn't happen by accident. That happened through taking literal pain and resistance and turning it into gold. And I think people forget that. And that's what awakening is. What is spiritual awakening for him? It's being the best version of himself that he can be and sharing his past story in the role of a spiritual teacher. But you don't necessarily have to be a spiritual teacher such as Eckhart Tolle to be the best person that you can be. You could be literally doing anything. You could work at a coffee shop and you could be doing just as beneficial work for society as Eckhart Tolle is on stage teaching people about spirituality. Teaching people about spirituality is one way to express that pain of the past and to turn it into gold. You don't have to be a spiritual teacher. You don't even have to look like it. You don't even have to necessarily be expressing things in a certain way. You can express it in any way that you want as long as it resonates with you internally. As long as you're transforming that pain into something greater than the pain and something that you believe is greater than the pain, you're spiritually awakening. That's the true path of awakening. Being in the pain and resisting the pain, you could say that's spiritual awakening, but I think that's not spiritual awakening. That's the first step to awakening. That's just the first step. The second step to awakening is to drop that entire, perspective of, like, oh my gosh, like you need to be in the pain to be a woke person, whatever that means. No, I think a truly woke person, whatever that means, is still conscious of the pain in their past. They still even may feel it from time to time coming up, but they choose to not turn a blind eye to it, but to transform it into something greater. And I think that's what true awakening is. And the third thing that I want to share with you in this video to conclude is, most people don't want to talk about this, and they think that, oh, this is ego. That's coming from ego. He's talking about ego. He's talking about, like egotistical things. It's like, no, actually, this is what I believe. It's allowing yourself to want what you want with zero shame and zero guilt. So I encourage you to, to conclude this video, I encourage you to sit with that and to think about that. Are you allowing yourself to want what you want in your life? Are you allowing yourself to truly desire what you desire? Because look, you're going to desire what you desire. No matter what, you're going to desire what you desire. You can't run away from your desires. They're going to come one way or another. And part of awakening, I believe, is to drop the guilt and the shame and the resistance around wanting what you want. The entire process that goes on in your mind and in your body, in your literal physical body, when you're sitting there, when you're going through life and you're resisting what you want, that is going to make you feel more excited, whatever that is. I don't care what it is, if it's a true desire, it's never going to be something bad that hurts yourself and others. That's what I've seen. It's like we come up with these concepts and ideas like, oh, this isn't truly spiritual, this is bad. At least that's how I used to see it. And I'm seeing more and more and more that when I drop these concepts of good and bad and I allow myself to want what I want, I actually feel a lot better in my life. And it really truly is beneficial to myself and the people around me. Whereas when I'm sitting there in that, like, what I call the derp state, what I call the derp state, and you could, I don't like to use this word, but sometimes I like to use it, the unconscious haze, the lesser, I guess you call it the less conscious haze, because really I don't see unconsciousness in my life anymore. I don't see anything as unconscious. I see things as either you're in a more dense state or you're in a more aligned state. That's it. That's the two directions you could be headed. Either you can be going downhill towards more density and resistance and more pain and suffering, or you can be moving towards more holism and more alignment towards your true heart's desire. Pretty much, is it really that simple? Of course it's not that simple, and there's deeper nuances that I could not even, I could be talking for multiple hours. I could record a whole 10-hour lecture, and I still wouldn't even get to the bare minimum of how deep this topic goes, because there's way too many factors to consider in terms of how this entire process works and how it connects with your life and other factors of your life and the people around you and whatnot. But generally speaking, of course there's nuances here. When you allow yourself to want what you want and you remove any shame or guilt, the shame and the guilt is actually the problem, is what you start to realize. The shame and the guilt is what lowers your frequency. The shame, like, I would argue, not argue, but I would make a claim, generally speaking, that being in an extreme state of shame or guilt, wanting your desire, is going to be much worse for your body, for your mind, and for the people around you than just going after whatever it is that you want. And people think, well, what if a person wants this thing that's really bad and negative? Oftentimes, you don't really want anything that's bad or negative. It's just we come up with concepts in our mind and we call it bad. And I'm sure somebody can come out here and say, oh, but what about this person that wants this, gosh, I don't want to say anything too outrageous because I feel like it might trigger somebody. It's like, what if somebody wants to be like a mass murderer and kill people? You know what? I am not a professional around this topic, and I can't make bold claims around this topic because I don't have the qualifications to make bold claims around this. But personally, just as a human being, you can disagree with this. Like, the people that do really, really hurtful things and have extremely, you could say, narcissistic tendencies and do truly, truly bad things, usually what happens is that the reason why, I believe, I don't know for sure, why somebody would get to that point in their life to begin with, is because they originally resisted their true desire. They're so in the shadow with so much shame, with so much guilt, and so much resistance, and they're so far in the direction of not being who they want to be, that then they start to compensate and be truly what you call a narcissist. But if moment to moment, if you're truly aligned with your heart, you could say, if you're truly aligning with your desire, if you're truly doing what you really, really want, I have noticed that all these truly narcissistic and negative behaviors fall away pretty quickly. And you start to become a really awesome person. And you start to become really integrated. You start to help a lot of people. And you start to become really, really awesome. So I hope that what I shared with you, although I'm not qualified and I'm not a professional around these topics, because people can have a lot of issues around why they would lead themselves on a path to do something as negative as perhaps, murder somebody. Again, I know that's a sensitive topic, and I can't really talk about that too much because I'm not qualified around that, nor am I professional. But, I hope that gave you a perspective that removed a little bit of shame and guilt around in your life around wanting what you want. Because if you don't allow yourself to want what you want, I would say that, in my personal opinion, it would actually increase the probability of you doing something really narcissistic or negative or truly hurtful or really negative, you could say negative or whatever, for yourself and people. Whereas if you allow yourself to want what you want, through consciousness, through learning, through awareness, you'll become better. And I believe that's what awakening actually is. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about this. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I would love to hear what you have to say. As always, once again, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, all the details for that will be down below. I recently just launched email coaching, as well as I have a couple spots left for my one-on-one coaching program. I'm only taking about 1 or 2 spots for my one-on-one coaching program. That's all I have left. So if you don't want to be a part of that, all the details for that once again will be down below. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next